Melting the days when hope unborn has died, yet with a steady beat, come our weary feet, come to a place for which our fathers sighed.
Johnson used his talent as a poet, author, diplomat, lawyer, and educator to protect American citizens and dedicate his life's work to determine that the, quote, the final measure of the greatness of all peoples is the amount and standard of the literature and art they have produced.
James Weldon Johnson, he left something for a blueprint for not just African Americans as a hymn, but it speaks to America in general. And I think the more and the earlier people catch on that it wasn't just a hymn just for us, all that was written by us, but it speaks to just America. And so yeah, and this is, to be a part of this organization here really means a lot because they care about that, preserving that black history. So that's, I'm glad to be here.
It's important to us because we have to learn about it so we can tell other people about it when they can't.
It's important for future generations like us to learn the historical context behind this cabin and what we're doing right now. So this is why we're here.
When you look in the cabin out those windows, you will get a sense of what Johnson was experiencing in the winter of winter you can see everywhere. 1926, Thanksgiving, 1926. Took him 10 years to write that poem, but when he got up here, it's like, ah, I got it now, I see it. Okay, I can believe this now.
Throughout his life, he was an author and a poet. He was an educator who established the first high school for African Americans in Florida. He opened a newspaper. He was a newspaper founder and publisher. He was an attorney, the first African American to pass the bar in Florida. He was a lyricist and hit Broadway songwriter with his brother, Rosamond. He was a founder with Irving Berlin of ASCAP. ASCAP is a major licensing and royalty agency for music composers and publishers. He was a diplomat in Venezuela and Nicaragua. He was a field secretary for the NAACP who raised membership from 3,000 to 100,000 in 3 years. And he was the first African American to lead the NAACP, the first African American professor at NYU, and he was a professor in Nashville at Fisk. He was a man of honor, he was a man with deep integrity, and he was a very important public intellectual.
Everybody came to him. White writers of all kinds came to him. Will you read my poems? Young 15-year-old poets write to him from all over the country. Mr. Johnson, would you read through my poem? And he does. Not always. I mean, you know, you're human. But he does often read their poems, and he writes them back, and he says, that first one has some potential. The other two, throw them away. They're not poetry. It could be really tough. I've come to really respect that about him. But when he saw something he thought was good, he would help a 15-year-old poet. He would help a 20-something-year-old's Earl Neil Hurston or Langston. He told Langston Hughes at times, you can do better than that.
Making history. Everybody's making history here.
Big step.
Big step. Giant step, like John Coltrane. Giant step. Giant step.
So I'm Isabel Randall. I'm one of the James Weldon Johnson 2024 fellows here, and for me as an artist, it's so much about, you know, all the work you can produce, all of the things that you can achieve, but this fellowship has already shown me, being here my very first day, that it's more about for what I can offer as an artist, but also a time away from it all, away from the need of going, but having time to be still and stop and just being around this nature. I mean, just being on the property where James Weldon Johnson wrote Creation, where he wrote all of these amazing writings and all of these lyrics and words. It rings true for me as an artist because he was a real person, he had a real story, and I hope to, if I can even scratch the surface of what he accomplished, then I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah. Powerful stories. Stories are powerful.
They are.
Yeah, they are. So in 1967 in Salt Flat, you were learning about James Weldon Johnson.
I was in high school.
In high school.
So when I found out this was his house, I knew what I was looking at.
Right.
I was really happy about that because I had remembered all those years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, here he was, part of my life.
Right. And doing what you do to be a part of restoring.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when we started, there were holes in the floor, there were animals living in the cabin, there were holes in the ceiling, and now as you go in and see, you'll see how it's been saved and repaired. And so we thank you so much, Steve, for all your hard work.
Well, it was a team effort. It really
and
was.
your team.
I'm part of it.
Yes.
We were really fortunate to have an outstanding contractor on this project. And particularly an outstanding work team that was on it. Cronenberger and Sons from Middletown, Connecticut did the work, and Alan Patuska was the job superintendent. He was a fabulous craftsman.
All done by hand. So
Yeah,
this foundation, what you really can't see, and the masonry work, all done by hand.
When you read in Along This Way, he said, in 1926, I bought a little place in the township of Great Barrington. I rode one day by an overgrown place where a little red barn was all that stood amongst the weeds, and the house on a place burned down. In this passage alone, he used the word place about 5 or 7 times. A bright little river ran under the bridge over there, and circled around the barn behind it. And on inquiry, I learned that there were 5 acres in the tract. And he said, this is just the place for me. Thank you.